Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Citizens Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I'm Bronwyn Slade. Unfortunately, today is a pre-recorded lesson, so you can't participate live, though you can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and on the television at Bell Express View Channel 972. Our classes are scheduled Monday through Thursday from 9 till 10 in the morning. And we are in our 8th week of our 9-week course. So at this point, you definitely need to have been handing in some work. Things are due, our deadline is very soon. It is June 10th, it is next Friday. So we are running out of time. If you want to get your work in, please do. Also remember, we'll have a culminating assignment. So once you finish all of your work and hand all of that in, you will get a final project. So you need to get all of your work in so that you can be working on that. The support questions, though, are the ones with the key, sorry, not the key icons. Completely wrong. The support questions are the one with the pencil icons. And they're not for marking. Those are the practice problems. So you do the ones that make sense for you to do and skip ones if you feel like you need to. The key questions, the ones with the key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So these ones, please do all of the questions and show all of your work, your steps, and your thinking so that I can give you credit for all of your understanding and support you if you are making errors. There are 3 methods for submitting your work for marking. The first is to scan your work and send it electronically. You can scan your completed work in using the smartphone apps, the iPhone Notes app, or the Android Google Drive app. Both have scan functions that are fairly straightforward. Then you can send it to student work at nnec.on.ca and then also CC it to me at bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, or you can send it through Facebook Messenger to bslateWahsa. Second method is to drop off your work into Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our location 74 Front Street. We're the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. So you can put your work in there at any time. Then the third method is to hand your work into your DEC. So your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, both my Facebook and my YouTube channel are under the name bslateWahsa, and I record all of our radio Zoom classes and I upload them to YouTube every week. So that's a great way to find the replays if you need to. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the videos. Just listening on the air is not really going to set you up for success. So either joining me live through Zoom, even just watching is totally fine, or watching the videos on YouTube are going to really help you understand the concepts the most. However, if you don't have access to those options, if you let me know, then I can send you a copy of the recordings so that you can still get the full experience. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out and contact me. Again, June 10th is our last day to submit work, including your culminating activity, which you don't have yet unless you've been in contact with me. So we really need to connect. You can email me at bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. You can Facebook me at bslateWahsa. You can call me at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. Though I teach the first hour and the last hour of my day, so that's not a great time to try to get a hold of me. All right, so today is our last lesson, lesson 20, and we are comparing modes of transportation. It was wrapping up our course. After this week, after this lesson, we will just be reviewing to consolidate everything that we've learned. So our learning goals for today are that at the end of this lesson, you'll be able to create a budget for using public transportation, and you will understand the cost of renting a vehicle from various companies. You know you've met these success criteria because you can calculate the monthly and yearly cost of using public transportation, and you can explain which is the best option when comparing car rentals. But first, let's activate your brain with some mental math. I'm not a believer in memorization for the sake of memorization. I think that knowing your facts is really, really useful, but I think that understanding them and being able to apply them in different situations is the most important. So we work on developing strategies that you can apply in various situations and use the skills that you have. So our question today is 172 take away 57. And we are using the strategy of adjusting one number. So to me, how I would want to do this, you could do this in infinite number of ways, really. But I'm going to change one of my numbers in order to make it simpler to subtract. So I'm going to say, okay, well, 57 is pretty close to 60. So if I subtract, if I do 172 take away 60 instead of 57, I can see that that is going to be 112. Okay, so that's pretty close. But I took away too much. I was only supposed to take away 57 and I took away too much. I took away 60. So I took away an extra 3, right, to take away 60, which was a friendly number. So that means that I need to add that 3 to my answer because I took away too much. So really it's 115. The difference between 172 and 57 is 115 is the difference, because if I took away 60, which was easy to do, then I had to shift it because I adjusted it by too much. I took away too much. So I need to add that little bit that I took away back on. And that's how you can adjust one number to do subtraction. All right, so what is our minds on? What do we need to engage in prior learning? I just wanted to do a little bit of time arithmetic because time can be a little bit tricky. It isn't directly related to this lesson, but adding and subtracting time is a little bit weird. So first we're going to look at adding. So we have 4 hours and 35 minutes, and we're going to add 1 hour and 46 minutes. So here I would add the hours. And so we have 5 hours. Okay, that part's easy. Great. Now my minutes are tricky. So I would look at this and I say I have 35 minutes and I have 46 minutes. So I'm going to say, well, I know, so 35 is 30 minutes plus 5 minutes. And 46 minutes is 30 minutes plus 16 minutes. So I want that 30 and 30 minutes because that's 1 more hour, right? So this is a base 60 model instead of our usual base 10. Don't worry about that. You don't need to know that. But I get a whole when I have 2 halves. My 2 halves are 30 minutes, right? So that gives me 1 whole hour. And then I can say, okay, well, 5 minutes plus 16 minutes. Well, that's going to be 21 minutes. That one is a little bit easier. But because I was able to break this into a group that maybe an hour, and I didn't have to do 30 and 30, I could have done, could have added 25 to 35 to get an hour there. I could have tried to get 14 minutes to get an hour here. Like there's various different ways. But then I know that I have 6 hours and 21 minutes in total, because I had 5 hours for my hours. I got an extra hour for my minutes, and then I had 21 minutes left. So that's how we add time, is you got to really think with your minutes that you're using that hour, which is 60 minutes. So then if we're subtracting, the same idea. So we have 7 hours and 20 minutes, take away 3 hours and 55 minutes. So again, I'm going to take away my hours first. I'm just going to say, okay, so 7 hours take away 3 hours is 4 hours. And then I have 20 minutes, and I want to take away 55 more minutes from 4 hours and 20 minutes. So how I kind of like to do it is I think of it like, I think of my clock, and I'm not a beautiful drawer, but so I have 20 minutes is something that looks kind of like that. This is 20 minutes. This is R4. So if I go back 20 minutes out of my, because I'm taking away, right? So I'm taking away, I want to take away 55 in total. So if I take away 20 minutes first, then I still need to take away 35 minutes, which means I'm left with, how do I think about this? I'm left yeah, this isn't working the way that I want it to work. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say, okay, I have 4 hours and 20 minutes and I need to take away 55 minutes. So I'm going to think that I have 3 hours and I'm going to take my 60 minutes from one of my hours and I'm going to add it to my 20 minutes so that I have 80 minutes. And then I want to take away 55 minutes from there. So if I take away 55 minutes from 80 minutes, I have, well, 80 minutes take away 50 minutes is 30 minutes. And that means that I have take away another 5 minutes is 25 minutes. So I have 3 hours and 25 minutes, which is what was working over here. It did make sense. I just wasn't sure. So 20 minutes, then taking away 35 minutes means that I'm left at 25 minutes in that hour. And that's how you can strap. So it can be tricky, can be a little bit awkward, but it's good to practice it a little bit because thinking about it can be strange and you might need to think about it a couple of different ways. All right, so what is our active learning? What do we have that is new that we want today? So our last one, will we use this in real life? So we are strengthening our ability to think critically. This entire course, we've been doing real life things, but we've been also learning to think critically and being more confident and stronger with that, as that's going to take you anywhere in life, no matter what you are doing, whether it is math related or not, whether it's number related or not. Thinking critically is essential for setting yourself up for success. Okay, so we're going to be looking at public transportation first, which we didn't get to really look at in our last lesson, which I wanted to. So we might connect to that last lesson a little bit to look at some of the schedules. So a car versus public transportation, this is on page 43 of your IEL book. So if you live in an urban center in a city, this means that there's possibly a means of public transportation. In Lookout, in northern communities, we don't have public transportation. In Ignace, in Dryden, in Red Lake, we don't have public transportation. We don't have a bus system, really, that is. In Lookout, we have the hub, which I don't really understand, but it's not something that anybody just uses. It's specialty support. So it can be daunting when you are visiting a new place to use public transportation because it's overwhelming and you don't know anything about it. The internet really is your friend. It gives you a lot of information on the internet. I was able to learn things about systems that I don't know anything about from cities that I've never used the public transportation on just from using the internet. So the internet is your friend. So again, what are some things to consider? So the cost of the fare is one thing to consider depending on where you are. The fare, how much it costs to get on to take one ride is different. It could be that it just takes cash. You just have to have exact change for the fare. There might be tickets or tokens that you can purchase at stores or different particular dealerships that you can do that. There might be a digital card that you can put money on that then you can swipe at when you're using the transportation. There could be something else that I don't know. Those are the things that I've used. There might be other systems that I don't understand. Also, things to consider is the age of the traveler. So depending on the age, the fare might be different. So in Toronto, if you're under 12, it's free. I can't remember if it was Winnipeg or Thunder Bay. We'll look at it. We'll see. It's if you're under 12, but you're traveling with somebody, then it's free. In Toronto, kids can just get on the bus by themselves and you don't have to be accompanied by an adult for it to be free. Kids go to school, they just take the bus and it's fine. If you are over 12, then and you're trying to say that you're under 12, then you have to prove it. It gets tricky. And then also, how do you pay? So are you just do you give money directly to the driver? Do you have to go through a different system? Is there a different place where there's cash box? It can be daunting, again, how you pay, because if you don't know it, you don't know it. And it can feel very weird and intimidating. And then also there's different types of transportation. So what do the stops look like? How do you find them? How do you know where you actually are? If you're trying to get on a bus, where are they going to stop and pick you up? What do you have to do? How do you get on? Do you need to wave them down? Do you need to not? Are they just going to come over? Do you have to, sometimes things don't pull over. Sometimes streetcars, which will look at stop in the middle of the road. You have to walk through the road to get onto them. How do you get off? Is there a bell to pull? Is there a button to press? How do you do that? And then what are the names and numbers for the routes and stops? How do you know if you're getting on the right bus or the right streetcar? How do you know when to get off and where to get off? That's all things to think about. So first we're gonna look at Thunder Bay. So this is the public transportation is just called, it's just under the city of Thunder Bay. And from what I can tell, they are just buses. I've used the Thunder Bay transportation a very little bit, and from what I can tell, it's just buses. And I think that they're just this green detailing on them. But I could be wrong because I haven't used it very much. So the fares for Thunder Bay public transportation for the bus system, the cash tickets are, to pay in cash, it's $3. If you're going to buy 10 tickets from places, I don't know where, but from places, then it's $25 for the 10 tickets. So if you do 10 divided by, if you do 25 divided by 10, you can see that that means that each ticket is worth $2.50. And so you're getting a deal by buying those tickets. You can also buy monthly passes, which we're not going to go into too much. And children under 12 are free. I think this is where you have to be traveling with someone who is paying a ticket. So knowing that is important to be able to understand that. This is the bus schedule, map of the transit system in Thunder Bay. So you can see that there are various different routes and all over the city, and there's coding in this map. This map tells you a little bit about that. So we're going to jump over to our last lesson and look a little bit more at the routes. So this is zooming in. So this is this route here, Jumbo Gardens. I picked it because I thought the name, the Jumbo, made me think of Dumbo. I don't know why. Anyway, random. So this bus route is what we're going to look at closely. So you can see it's up here in sort of the map here tells us that this is north. So this is the northern area. And so here, looking closely at 3J, Jumbo Gardens is the name of that bus. And you can see where it goes. And sometimes it goes through here. I don't know why. But if you look at the schedule, maybe we'll be able to figure that out. As why does it go into this E area? So these are different stops that tell you when you might arrive at those times. And then here at A, you can see these are all different buses that you can intersect with and transfer onto these different buses. So the schedule for this is, they tell you that from weekdays, you're going from Jumbo Gardens to Sherwood, and the waterfront, they tell you the different, those are points on the map, right? A, B, C, and D. They tell you what times you're going to be arriving at those places, so that you know when to catch the buses. And that happens looks like every 25 minutes or so, there's a bus at these different stops. So that's how you read these schedules, is they give you a long list of times so that you know what time might work best for you to pick at that spot. And then if you're in between those stops, you can sort of say, okay, well, it takes 10 minutes to get from C to D. So if I'm somewhere between there, I probably want to be there. I need to be there between that time. What makes sense? If you're going from Jumbo Gardens to Waterfront, we can see that's when we get that E stop. So that's a slightly different bus. And the times are slightly different. Then it says to refer to route 13 John Jumbo schedule for evening service. So this bus only runs during the day, and in the evening we need to use a different bus. Saturday, they have a slightly different schedule, and there's no Sunday service on this route. So these schedules I found online, and they tell you how to catch those buses. Okay, so now we are going to go back to our other slideshow. such as a little bit of a look at the schedule and the map for the Thunder Bay transportation system. Okay, so then Winnipeg, this is the logo, this T for transit, I would guess, for Winnipeg buses. So again, I believe there are just buses in Winnipeg. I have not used the Winnipeg transit system at all. And sometimes they have these shelters, and sometimes they just have a little flag pole. These are the stops. So either these places are where to go to stop where you're going to find a bus. This is the map. It's fairly extensive and really hard to see from here. This is the airport. You can tell that, but and this is blue line is the river, but it's really hard to see because it's a larger city base. Here are the fares for 2022. So cash fare, for an adult, it is $310. For youth, it is $260. For a senior, it's $260. And if you're in post-secondary, it's still $310. If you're going to use a Pego e-pass, which I don't know what that is, but it looks like some sort of pass that if you're going to use a transit in Winnipeg, you want to look it up. And then you can see that when you put, it's like you put money, I'm guessing, onto a card, and then your fare is slightly different. Or if you are buying paper passes, then again, the fares are slightly different. So knowing, it takes a little bit of understanding to figure out what makes sense when you're traveling in a new city. But using cash is always possible, but it's often cheaper to do something else. So if you're going to be there for a period of time, it might be worth looking into that. Then looking at, oops, not that one. So looking at the Winnipeg, you can, if you look online, you can find all of their route maps. So here is one, McMeans Express. Also, the name was funny, so I picked it. Which shows you, so it tells you the street names that it's traveling on. Here you can see weekday rush hour service only. So it seems like this part is really, really busy, so that they extend it into there. But otherwise, this is the express portion of this route. And the express bus stops, they don't stop as many stops, and so that's really important to know, is if you're waiting for a bus here, it might not stop for you because it's not an express bus stop. So you can sort of see that route. With Winnipeg, they are transitioning into a digital virtual system, so you can still see it online. Right now you can see the static image, but soon that will be no longer available, and you can only access it through an app. Where you can then click in your weekday, what time it is, and if this bus doesn't have any Sunday or Saturday service, so that tells us that here it's an express route. So you can then click in and zoom in. This is just a screenshot, so you can't, but you can get more information there. And then in terms of the schedule, so that's just the route. In terms of the schedule, this tells you a little bit about it. Again, I don't know these places very well, so I don't really know, but they give you an intersection and they give you a time when you're supposed to be there, and it's estimated because depending on life, it's hard to know. Traffic and things, it's a rough count. So this is if you're going to downtown, and then if you are going back to North Transcona, they give you the reverse times. So it being a digital thing now means that you can click on these things and get slightly different information. But I've just taken screenshots. But that's just the schedule. It looks like all the other schedules that we've been looking at. And then we'll go back to here and look at, I just thought I'd throw in Toronto. I know that it's far away. People are more likely to be in Winnipeg or Thunder Bay, which are the closest transportation systems to us. But Toronto, many people have to go to for various reasons, and it is quite daunting. As you can see, it's a big city, and there's a lot of the system is a little bit different than any other place in Canada, because we have various modes of transportation. But anyway, so you can see this big, huge map, which has like so much going on. We'll look in it a little bit closer. But our fare, so for an adult, it's $325. For senior or youth, it is $230. Again, children under 12 are free for traveling on the TTC. Sorry, it's called the TTC, the Toronto Transit Commission. The TTC is the name. That's how I'll refer to it. You can also use Presto, which is a card system where you load money on a card and then you save a little bit of money. Not very much money, 5 cents. That's not very much money. If you're just buying it a one card, you don't save any money. If you are getting more, you can have day pass. There's some different things. You can look into that a little bit more. You can also get monthly passes if you are living in Toronto and using the TTC more frequently. In Toronto, this is what's partially different about Toronto, is that there are 3 different public transportation modes of transportation. So there's buses, just like in Winnipeg and Thunder Bay. They are red, or they're white with red stripes on them. So this is what a bus, most of the buses look pretty much exactly like this. Then there's also the subway. So this is an underground travel where you have to go into a station underground, and then everybody gets on and off these big long trains. You don't pay for the fare. The fare on the bus, you pay at the driver. The fare on the subway, you pay at a teller at a different part in the subway. And then you go through a gate, and then you can just walk on and off the subway. These go really fast and can be quite dangerous. You need to be really safe on the platforms, and they can get really, really busy. This is not a busy moment, but they can get during rush hour, they can get extremely packed, and it can be quite dangerous. And then there's streetcars, which are on tracks. So buses come to the side of the road to pick you up. Streetcars do not. They stay in the middle, and they're connected through electricity. They have a beam that connects to wires that powers them. So these are safe to walk over. If you're crossing the street, it is fine to touch the rails. The rails are not charged with any electricity. The power comes from the wires above. Whereas in a subway, the tracks, the third rail is on the ground, and that's where the electricity comes from that powers the subway. So it's incredibly important not to go down into the subway tracks. It's incredibly dangerous, either 1, because a train might hit you, and 2, because there's a really, really high voltage electricity down there that could shock you and kill you. So these are different systems. The TTC is changing. Their subways are always updating. So the the streetcars could look like this, or they could look like this. Basically, they're that red, and they'll have this TTC logo on them, so that you can really tell that it's kind of obvious. There's not like there's anything like them that you confuse them for not being public transportation. And then stops look different. So there can be poles that are just around, or signs that are just where you can stop along the road. So either a bus or a streetcar, they have different images so that you know what you're waiting for. Remember, the streetcars don't come to the side of the road. You have to walk into the road to get to them. Cars are supposed to stop. They're not always great at it. They're supposed to. They can get ticketed. They don't. If you're driving, also important that you need to stop behind the streetcar doors so that people can get on and off. A subway, they either have stations above ground where you walk into doors, and then you can pay for pay your fare there, or you have to go underground. And so there is a subway sign like this that shows you that is where the subway is and how you can access it. And buses and streetcars stop at these constantly in order to let people on and off so they can transfer from buses to subways. Important thing about that is that you don't have to pay, you pay the same fare. So even if you're traveling and you're using a bus and a streetcar and a subway, if you're one route, then you pay one fare. You don't have to pay different fares to go on different things. But you need a little piece of paper that's a transfer, which is important to know, which I didn't think to take a picture of, but something I may do in the future. So then let's quickly look at so again, here's the map. You can look up this online, you can zoom in, but let's look a little bit closer. So this is one route, which you can find online, and there's apps to figure out how where your route is. So you can see here, this tells us it's north. North is this way. So this route here, because I know the north is this way, that means that west is this way and east is this way. So this is going along, I know that that's a Lawrence, so it's along here somewhere. You go down sort of like this. So it's kind of hard to see it within the bigger picture of the city. So, but this one is telling me that it connects with a subway there, and then it tells you the interconnected streets of where it crosses, and also the buses that you can potentially connect with along there. And they tell you, similarly to other ones, they tell you the timelines of when they're probably going to be at these various stops. Again, this is all electronic, so you can click on them and get more information. But I just took a screenshot so you can see that they tell you. And as things have updated, they're telling you if the bus is busy or not, or if they don't have any information. That's all new. Things develop. And then there's the subway. So the subway map is a little bit different. This is the subway map. Then streetcars. So these red lines are streetcars, and these the brightly colored ones are the subways. So you can see where those stops are. And with the subways, you don't have to ask them to stop. They always stop at all of the stops, unless there's an accident or if there's something's closed, then they might bypass something, but they'll tell you over the announcements on the subway. But you don't have to choose. They stop at all the stops and people get on and off. And this is what the map looks like. And then they tell you the trains are constantly coming every 2 to 3 minutes during rush hour and every 4 to 5 minutes during off-peak hours. So for the subway, you just go and you wait for one, and then you get on and then you get off. And you don't really necessarily time it as much because there's just so many of them. And here's a map of the route. This is just a list of all the stops. This doesn't show you actually the shape of the route at all. Here it shows you the shape of the route. Well, it's not to scale. This is really far away. And this is really condensed. This is really squished in, but it's stretched out so that you can see all that's going on in there. So that is the subway system in the TTC. So it gives you a little bit of information about it. Not a ton, but just gives you a little bit of an introduction so that you can help you if you are choosing to use that if you're in Toronto. So let's think about what the pros and cons are of using public transportation. The pros are that it is efficient. It has a less environmental impact. It's cheaper to use. There's no maintenance because you're not taking care of the vehicle. You can multitask. So you can work, read, listen to music or podcasts while you are riding the TTC while you're riding public transit. Most of my experience of public transportation is in Toronto, so I equate them to be the same. You have an opportunity to meet new people, which could be a pro or a con, depending on who you are. It can be more accessible for younger populations. So if younger youth don't have to have a license in order to use the public transportation, so they're able to get to places. And older populations, it might be easier to get to more places if you're not driving and dealing with the stress of driving. Some cons, some systems are just awful. They can be completely useless and can take a long time. So there can be long wait times, or there can be unreliable. The systems might make no sense in terms of where buses interconnect. And so you can't transfer. You only have to go to one place to transfer. And it's just really hard to get from one place to another place. There can be accessibility issues. So they cannot be accessible in terms of if you are using a wheelchair or mobility device, if you have strollers, if you're carrying heavy things or you're trying to transport something large, that can be really difficult on the public transportation. You have a higher chance of infectious diseases because you are being exposed to the public. They're not suitable for remote areas. So the fact that we don't have a public transportation system here in Sioux Lookout or in all of our communities, so it's not useful. We just don't have it. It may be or may feel unsafe. They can be overwhelming and very busy. It can be very confusing. So that if you understand it and you know it, it can be great. And if you don't, it can be really, really daunting and inaccessible. Okay, so let's look at some planning and budgeting for using the TTC, for using a public transportation system. So Rosa lives in Toronto and uses the TTC to get to and from work 5 days a week, 48 weeks a year. What is her annual cost? What should she budget monthly to cover it? So if we just go with the cash fare price for the TTC, which is $325. So one trip, sorry, I don't know what. One trip is $325 for an adult. So if Rosa is using them to go to work to and from 5 days a week, so that means that per week she has 10 trips, right? 5 times 2 is 10 trips. So that means that weekly, the cost is 10 times 325, which is $32.50 a week. So the annual cost, the yearly cost, is 52 times 325.50, right? 52. Oh wait, no, she only does it for 48 weeks of the year. So we're going to say that's only 48. We're not going to do it 52 weeks. The rest of the time, she just stays at home and reads her book. I don't know. I'm just. Okay. So to travel to work, 48 times 32.50 is equal to $1,560. So just to go to work, to use the public transportation, it's $1,560 a year. Oh, that feels like a lot. So to budget monthly to cover that cost, so that you don't have to have that all at one time. So to do it monthly, so $1,560 divided by 12 to figure out that monthly cost or how much you should plan for the month. So we take that and we divide it by 12. So $130 roughly a month is what she spends on public transportation to go to work. Okay, so you can do the support questions on page 44, question number 1 now. Is that's looking at public transportation. Now let's look at car rentals. So renting a vehicle is on page 44 of your IEL book. And renting a vehicle is a pretty low risk investment. It's more akin to booking a hotel room than to booking an airline ticket. So it's pretty easy to change, to cancel. There are prepaid rates, so you can pay upfront and maybe get a deal. You can also pay later rates. So when you actually arrive and get the vehicle, you pay then. Those rates may be the same or maybe different. It depends. There generally is no cancellation penalty. If you need to cancel it, it doesn't cost you anything. You have to look closely to make sure, but usually that's all right. So something to note is that the rates are significantly higher for younger drivers. Renters under 25 commonly encounter daily age-related fees on rentals that can even exceed the cost of the renting the car. So if you're under 25, it's probably not a best bet. This is due to there being statistics on the number of accidents of younger drivers. So it is an insurance thing in terms of it costs you more to be if you are younger. So it might not be the best bet if you are under 25 to rent a vehicle. You do need a driver's license and a credit card to rent a vehicle. They'll ask for that. And you can overpay for car rental insurance. So a large portion of the car rental contract concerns who is responsible for damage costs if the vehicle is in an accident. And so they're going to be offering you various insurance options, and you can pick and choose which one. And that can be, some of them can just feel like they're just taking your money. So be really careful with that. So just a little overview with you in case you've never rented a car. So what you do when you pick up your rental car. So you need to bring your ID, your credit card, and your confirmation number. You need to respect pickup and return times. They may charge you if you are late to pick it up or late to return it. They may charge you more if you pick it up early. They probably won't charge you more if you return it early. That's probably fine. But just be careful with that. There might be extra fees that if you aren't going with the agreed upon times. It's really important to inspect the vehicle before you drive away. So inspect the exterior, the glass, the interior, take any photos of any scratches or other damage that you find, and ask the rental car company to record it before you leave. This way they won't charge you for the damage that has been done to the vehicle. So that's super, super important so that you're not being held responsible for something that you are not responsible for. It's generally a good idea to just reject pricey extras. So they're constantly trying to upsell you with things, and overall, it's probably not worth it. Your insurance, if you have personal car insurance, that might cover your rental. So something to look into. So when you're returning the car, what do you do? So first, fill up the gas tank. They may charge you a high fuel fee if you return an empty tank. So fill it up. Return the car during your operating hours so that you can touch base and you can confirm that the vehicle's there and that they don't, if you return in the middle of the night and someone steals it, then they'll say you didn't return it and you're responsible for it. So it's best to return it during operating hours so that you can officially hand off the exchange, like you're no longer responsible for it. Record any damages and get a receipt so that you know that you have the time that you returned it, the odometer reading, and the fuel level so that they don't charge you for those things. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of common car rental places. So we have Enterprise. So here in Sioux Lookout, you can rent at the airport. It is not great to rent at the airport. If they are going to charge you more money because they can, but sometimes you don't have any other options. The airport is the only place that you can rent a vehicle here in Sioux Lookout. So, yeah. So here you just put in where you're picking it up, which is in Sioux Lookout at the airport. The pickup day. So I'm just going to pick a day in the future, and the return date. You have to bring it back. You can sometimes return it someplace different than you pick it up. So you can click here and turn to a different location. We're not going to go into that right now. And then you check availability, and they see if they have any vehicles that are available for you. And then they tell you about the vehicle and how much it's going to cost per day. That you can look through there. So you can pick, depending on the size that you need, if you want something fancy, but then look, the price really goes up, and if that might be no problem for you, that's fine. But you want to consider that in terms of both the size, your comfort with driving it, and the cost. So that's Enterprise. So it's fairly straightforward. They're all fairly similar. Hertz is another option. And again, going to the website, just searching up Hertz, just searching up car rentals in an area is going to tell you what the options are available for you. So then here, again, you pick up your location. So say we are in Winnipeg. So you just type in Winnipeg and you can see, so the Winnipeg airport, there is options there, but there's also in the city, there are 5 different locations. So maybe you can pick up a vehicle if you're not coming from the airport, or if you're able to it might be worth getting a taxi to a different location, so that maybe that makes more sense. Maybe it doesn't. It's your call. You do you. So then here you select for a reservation, and you don't have to be slow. Come on. Again, you put in your date when you're returning it, and you can select if you're under or over 25, if you have a preference in the car type that you're going to rent, and then you can you book as a guest or as if you're a member, and then they can tell you the prices. I must have clicked a really long time. I think I clicked for a month. Yeah, so I went from June to July. So it's a really high expensive because they're giving you the full month of cost, and they're selling. So here they tell you the gas consumption rate, right? And so you can get some more information from it. Also, depending on if you are paying, if it's unlimited kilometers, sometimes that they tell you that. They should tell you that at some point before you commit, so that you know if you are paying per kilometer, or if there's a service charge, or if it's unlimited. And then there's Avis is another company. It's exactly the same. You put in your dates, you pick a vehicle. It's all the same. Okay, so let's look at an example. So if you're calculating the cost of renting from each company for 3 days, which one would you pick? So Avis, we have an SUV that is for per day is $237.16 plus insurance, which is $51.97. So Avis is $237.16 plus $51.97 per day. And so then we're going to have to times that by 3. because we need it for 3 days. So we use our calculator. Do 37.16 plus 51.97 is equal to, and then times that by 3 is equal to $867.39. $867.39. $67.39. Whereas enterprise is a standard Jetta or something similar, which is $101.93 per day. So there's no insurance available for this one, or that's just times 3. So 101.93 times 3. Oh, sorry, it's 101.93 times 3 is equal to 305.79. So then you got to decide, is the SUV more important? It tells you that there's 5 passengers, that they have, you can fit 3 bags in it. Here you can have 5 people and you can fit 5 bags in it. This one tells you unlimited kilometers. This one also has unlimited kilometers. So that's not a thing. Is the insurance something that you need? Personally, I would pick enterprise because I'm cheap. That's a $500 difference. That's a pretty big difference. Yeah, between the 2 options. Okay, so now you can do the support questions on page 45. Question number 2 is about car rentals. So let's consolidate what we learned today. So modes of transportation, we've looked at public transportation, we looked at the fare, the various methods, and the pros and cons of public transportation. And with car rentals, we know that we need to have a driver's license and a credit card. Your age matters, so that's going to change the cost of things. That you need to watch out for extras. They might not be worth it. That there may be limited kilometers or unlimited kilometers. That's you need to ask for, you need to note. And that there are fuel and damage fees. So you need to be aware of that going into it. So hopefully now you can calculate the monthly and yearly costs of using public transportation. And you can explain which is the best option when comparing car rentals. It depends on you. So that is the end of our last lesson. We are now finished all of the new material for our entire course, lessons 1 through 20. We are done. So if you have any questions, please reach out and contact me, and let's get you through the end of this course. So you can call me at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or at 1-800-667-3703. You can email me at bronwyn.slate, which is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.owen.ca. You can connect with me through Facebook at bslatewahsa. And remember, all of our lessons are uploaded on YouTube at bslatewahsa as well, under the playlist MEL3E. I'm available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. to connect. If you would like to reach out, please do so. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a lovely day.